If yes, great. Okay, so hey, today, Tuesday Pulse. This is Chuck Boyce with CB Creative, and today I'm going to go over the differences between the initial excitement of exploring AI agents and comparing that to the readiness needed to integrate it into your processes. It's not about using ChatGPT or Claude at the prompt box, but integrating and automating processes using tools and agents. So it's not anti-agent, it's not anti-AI, it's pro-success. And so it may sound negative at times, but what I want people to understand is to slow down and think things through, build your foundations, not too early, but when you're actually ready to use them. Use your sandboxes, use your test environments, but make sure you're ready for them. So, right now, if you read any of the news, you know that Agentic AI is just the new automated. Everybody's talking about everything's agents, everything's agents. You need this. They're employees. You just train them and transform your operations. It's easy. Plug it in and it'll work. But it's not. They're selling autonomy, but leaders here, we get AI employees and they assume that it's cheap and safe. Most of the demos are staged environments. They use clean data, they use stable standard operating procedures, they have clear ownership. That's not a moral failing, it's the reality of most SMBs is that they're not ready for that. They don't have clear SOPs, they don't have stable data, they don't have clear ownership. And so the goal is to reduce the shame and increase the clarity. You're not behind, you're where everybody else is. Agents are very powerful. Their premature agents are dangerous. Not dangerous like science fiction where Skynet's going to take over and kill everybody and turn the robots on us. Dangerous like if it has silent errors. You don't often know when there's errors until it may be too late. You may have ruined your reputation by something said wrong to a client, or it may have affected your finances, and suddenly you have a problem with money. So it may waste staff time and it may break customer trust. So, what's changed from prompts to agents? And if you've been around the industry for a year or so, last year it was more about prompting and being a prompt engineer. And then the automation came through and started connecting it to Zapier and Make and agents or automation engines like that. And now the hype is around agents, where the agents can take actions and multiple goals. They have memory, they have handoffs, and they're semi-autonomous. Most vendor demos assume that you already have everything in place to make these things work. So prompted AI, which is where we were last year, is it responds to a question. You're in full control, and that's what Chat, Claude, and Gemini pretty much are. Automated workflows, which a lot of people are using, are predefined steps, and so they act upon a trigger. You say, if this webhook comes in, or if this form has been filled out, then do this action, this action, this action. Massage the data, send an email, and that's all the automation. But what agents do, it makes everything work across multiple steps, and they remember what happened in one step to another, and there's contextual goals, and there's actual handoffs. But most people think that you eliminate the human in the loop, but you always really do need to keep human in the loop, because if the rules are clear, it works. If they're fuzzy, you introduce risk. And so it's like somebody you can walk around your kitchen and start doing things. You don't want somebody to come into your house and suddenly take control of your kitchen if they don't know what ingredients you have or what tools you have. It's like you have to give them guidance. So agents don't replace thinking. They multiply the cost of unclear thinking, or they can multiply the real thinking. But you do have to have an intake process that is the same always. You have repeatable results, you have repeatable intakes. So if your intake varies, if different responses, somebody calls into your business to do something, and every time a different person answers, they give a completely different answer or process, that's going to stay the same, whether you automate it or not. So if you have unclear processes, agents or AI won't fix it, it won't scale it. So you have to document, stabilize, then assist, then automate, then bring agents in. And so it's a step-by-step process where you have to be methodical and understand where your inputs are and clearly which step goes to which step. So this is where the readiness versus excitement comes in. When you first hear about agents, as most people do, they say, can we do this? And they focus on the capability and the possibility without looking at the context or the consequences. And so excitement is capability focused, whereas readiness is context focused. So readiness asks, should we do this here and now? So if you've been seeing a lot of, can we do this? That's the normal, that's the shift. The real shift is when you say, should we do this? And what's it going to impact? So excitement is, and I'm sure you've heard that's everybody's talking about agents. We need to get on board. The tool promises we can run our operations autonomously. And we should do this before our competitors beat us to it. And so they're incomplete. If they don't include anything about risk, ownership, rollback, reliability, fatalities, not fatalities, but just things that could go wrong. If something goes wrong, who's responsible? Can it be rolled back? How embedded are these systems? Can we say stop? So readiness looks like is, like I've mentioned in many of my webinars, is documented processes and workflows. Do you have a step-by-step clearly mapped out who owns it and what the responsibilities are? Again, there's that ownership. Everybody knows who makes when, what decision, and when. Document what happens if something goes wrong, who's responsible, who's accountable, and what data are you using to source and what your outcomes are. Is that all clearly defined? With documented workflows, you don't need a novel, you just need a checklist plus some examples and more so exceptions. What happens if something fails? Is there ownership? Is one person responsible? It should be one person responsible. What happens when it goes wrong? Can it be rolled back? What are the boundaries? Everything like that. So here's the hidden prereqs that agents assume. They assume that you have stable processes, and without them, you're debugging the business and not the agent. Do you have clean inputs? Is your data clean? Dirty data will just make hallucinations available. And I don't know if you're familiar with one of the California laws now that a client can sue you if you're using AI and the AI hallucinates and it causes them to have business failure. It's not the tool, the manufacturer of the tool, you supplied the solution, the tool hallucinated, but you gave that result to a client and it affected them negatively. And so they can come to you and sue them for hallucinations. And so that's something that really needs to be thought about that most people don't. If there's a mistake, who's going to find it? Is it going to be a silent mistake that escalates and has other impacts on other parts of your business? Or is somebody going to be notified right away to be able to stop it and roll it back? If nobody's accountable, nobody has the failure, nobody can fix it. And again, those silent errors, they can be expensive. You don't feel them initially, but they can snowball and compound. So here's a complexity multiplier. Even when they're simple agents, they can have a negative impact on customer-facing actions because trust is fragile. You make one mistake with a client and then they lose trust in you. If it's revenue impacting, if it's affecting your finances, these mistakes can become expensive. Are you talking to multiple systems? Are you taking data from a CRM and putting it into your billing systems or your ticketing? How is the data being moved from one system to another? You're suddenly now talking multiple systems instead of just a CRM or just an email going out. Is there rollback? Can it be reversed? How observable are you creating logs, alerts? Are there quality assurance steps along the way? Are you training people along the way? Are your employees part of the solution, or are they thinking that I don't want to do this because I may lose my job in one way or another? Is it the negative impact on the employees? Are you giving them training? And again, going back to data, what is the data? What is your clean source? Are you using a single source, or are you looking at a CRM and a contact database and a billing database, which has the authoritative source? Messy data in, garbage out, but it can negatively impact your your clients and your finances. So a good rule of thumb here is to look at your blast radius of how much it affects. And so if you look at like on the low autonomy narrow blast, this is something that the AI or the agent makes a suggestion to one user. So that one user is the impact. You get a wider blast radius when it starts getting manual controls. It's only acting for one user. It's getting more autonomy. It's still low autonomy. And you can see it's, again, if it's affecting more people, you get higher risk. If it's affecting multiple users and multiple tools, it's a wide blast radius with high autonomy, but where are your risks? And so you really want to start out on low autonomy, low risk, move into higher risk, and then start increasing the autonomy. That's just a good way to approach your agent adoption. So when they make sense, and this is where you want to start testing, exploring, and understanding the impact on your business. So start with your internal repetitive tasks like meeting follow-ups, summarizing drafts, summarizing documents, webinars and things like that, prepping proposals, triaging internal requests. Do low risk, drafting with approval, keep the human in the loop. Do you want to schedule your drafts? Do you want to create internal tasks? Use well-defined inputs. So if the agent reads from this form, it's not free form, it's always consistent. And again, keep that human in the loop with approval gates. Make sure that if it's going to have an impact on a client or your finances, that there's a human that makes that approval. Unless it's very, very repeatable every time, you don't want to give that autonomy to have the agent make that last decision. So here again, when they're premature, customer-facing decisions, if it's going to have a negative impact on your customer, you're going to ruin the trust. If it's impact, a small error can cost big money. Cross systems, make sure that the integration with permissions and monitoring, that your CRM doesn't suddenly impact your billing in a negative way. AI can support decisions. It can't own accountability. There's no one there to be responsible. It's a big black hole. If you want speed, use the agent to prepare the work, not finish it. So with the size of the business, this is where most of the errors can come in. When one or two people, a lot of the knowledge is still tribal, you're not affecting too many people, the impact of the agents, the one or two people can easily roll back. As you start adding more people to the team, you start getting more places where complexity joins in. And so as you start going in here, you have more touch points, more people are affected, more decisions could be made. And so when you're getting into the 11 to 15, there's still scattered tribal knowledge. They're starting to get documentation. They're starting to understand the impact of these. But as the business grows, a lot of these processes and systems may have already been documented. Maybe not fully, but they are more complete. And so actually, as the company grows in size, the impact is less. It's only in this like 10 to 15, 10 to 20 range of employees where you still have a lot of scattered knowledge, scattered responsibilities, a lot of undocumented processes. And that's where a lot of the time should be taken into standardizing and documenting rather than applying the agent. So systems first, avoid overclaiming, avoid the hype. quick matrix here. Adoption speed with a small team, it can be very fast. There's low resistance, low variance. There's low training. It's great for summarizing, decision support, drafting, low impact. Get 3 to 5, it's still fast. You start getting more process variation. You still have a low training burden, and there's light governance. So you can do agents with approval gates. Human in the loop. Here, when you get 6 to 15, you have medium adoption speed, you have high variance because there's multiple people with different ideas, things haven't been documented. There's a higher training because there's more people, so you have to get everybody trained on the same methods and systems throughout your organization. You have medium governance, and so here, again, you're doing narrow internal agents, drafting first, human in the input loop. And then larger, even though it's slower to launch, you have a medium variance because the processes have normally been documented by this point. You have a much higher training burden because, again, higher people, more people to train, and there is higher governance. And so here you start getting into more complexity and you're doing things like QA sampling and escalating and things like that. And so agents scale with clarity, not head count. And so, again, looking at how you're documented and how well things work, agents will become more applicable. So here's what's a quick self-check that you can do. Do you fully understand the process of where it would run? Can a human explain every decision step along the way? Do you know what wrong looks like? Do you know where not to put these agents? Is there a rollback if it fails? And biggest thing of all, who is accountable for when it fails? If it's a no to any of those, it's not necessarily a no, but it's a not yet. It not yet means it's not a permanent rejection. You just have to build your roadmap. So again, documenting your workflow, standardizing your inputs, defining your review and escalation, and setting stop criteria. When does it stop? When do we pause? When do we roll back? If you do these in a bounded pilot, you're going to have much better chance of success. So where to start instead of agents or before agents is to improve your AI literacy. Get your team trained on the fundamentals and how AI is being used consistently in your business. Document your processes now and figure out what can be automated or improved with AI. Use AI for assistance to support your decisions, not to make them autonomously. And run bounded pilots. Give yourself start points, checkpoints, and final results that you can document. That way you can look at what your return on your investment is going to be and how to roll back properly. And when do they make sense? It's a later step. Once you have the clarity, the structure, and the readiness, when you understand the technology, the terminology, and capabilities tested in guarded environments, that's when you're ready. AI doesn't fail because it's immature. It's because you're not ready. And again, everybody's in the hype. You're not behind. There's not a lot of people. There's only like 5 to 10% of businesses who are really doing AI agents effectively. And 90% are still on that low level learning curve of we're just bringing ChatGPT in right now. And so we may be more involved with AI because we see it on a daily basis, but there's a lot of people who don't. And so it's still really new, and they're 90% of these people that you're dealing with or yourself, you're not behind. There's very few people who are ahead. So common mistakes, learn from others' mistakes. Deploying without documentation is a no-no. Skipping the pilot testing, do not do that. Do not ignore your data quality. If you don't have rollback plans, you're looking for trouble. If you don't have accountability, again, more trouble. And so do not fall into these traps because, again, the excitement at the first, it's we want to do this, we want to get it going. And then if you're not planning properly, chances of failure increase. And again, a lot of these places, vendors are coming out and thinking that, making you think by doing these demos that this is something you can do in 30 days. It's not. These projects, it takes 30 days just to get it set up. And then you go 6 months before you really start seeing results. And so people aren't ready for that. And all the excitement starts failing because suddenly it's all the hard work, the busy work, the boring work that you have to do. And so assess where your document gaps are, fill those, define your standards, train your team on those standards, start a bounded pilot, monitor it, find out where your return on investment is going to be. And then once you have that, then expand with metrics and governance. So it's from a methodical progression and not rushed implementation. That's where you're going to find success. So run a readiness checkpoint before investing in Agentic AI. Just run an assessment. I have an assessment that's on my website that is about 10-minute, 20 questions, give you an idea of where your business can be ready. Once you have that, then you can start getting a better idea of where to go forward. And your path forward isn't a question about will they transform how you operate. They will eventually. It's when you're ready to deploy it. And so it isn't about moving slowly, it's moving strategically. When you have your foundation, you're going to be able to deploy much more confidently, and you're going to have a lot of these potential holes filled.